Ronald Ross was a British physician who received the 1902 Nobel Prize for Medicine for his work on the transmission of malaria. He was born in 1857 in Almora, in current Uttarakhand state, India, the son of Sir Campbell Clay Grant Ross, British Indian Army General, and Matilda Charlotte Elderton. A polymath and eccentric, he wrote novels and composed music and plays. Despite his enrolment in the St. Bartholomew's Hospital Medical College, London, in 1889 he married Rosa Bessie Bloxham. In 1897 he proved malaria was transmitted by mosquitoes. He died in 1932 following an asthma attack. We will review his 1920, The Revels of Orsera. On a dark night on the snowy mountains of the Swiss Urserental, the devil is screaming at heaven for forgiveness, as a few chamois hunters sleep nearby. Then we meet Morva Neroni, a refugee fleeing from Venice, whose husband dies along the way. She settles in a poor cottage in the Urserental, and has 2 children, Zosimo and Estrella, whom no one in the village ever sees, as she never lets them leave her cottage. But one day Zosimo goes off to work as an apprentice at the inn, despite his mother's wishes. The inn is managed by Pompilia and her philosophizing husband Capon, and Zosimo, being a dwarf and a hunchback, gets quite a lot of abuse and ridicule from Capon for his efforts. After a while, Count Reichenfels arrives at the inn with his daughter Lelita, and Cardinal Raffaello Bonto, sent to investigate the devilry said to be going on about in these Swiss valleys. Meanwhile, the Count announces his plan to hold a great and opulent tournament to decide which is the handsomest man in the world, as only he deserves to marry his daughter. While there, Gangogo, the Count's jester and his second hunchback, mocks Zosimo and has him hung from a meat hook in the hall, when Zosimo dared put on the Count's dress in front of a mirror. Then Morva arrives and tells her son she hates him for his deformity, does not reproach them for hanging him on a hook, and mocks him to his face. Then as Gangogo leers at Zosimo, Estrella storms into the room and seizes the jester by the throat, and orders them to let her brother down. Later at night, a mysterious stranger shows up at the inn when Zosimo is alone and orders beer, before the pair disappear, no one seeing Zosimo for 3 months. Then the trial happens, and Zosimo arrives with his new master, the Count Otto Azrimar, to take part. The trial is the most boring, repetitive part of the book. All the time Otto goes from one event to the other, doing poorly, then doing better, Lelita oscillating between being in favour of him and hating him violently. She even gives him a string of her pearls, not for love of him, but so her cousin and other suitor Cajasso could kill Otto instead. Then when Otto dares to win, she says she hates him and only wishes to see him when he's dead. So he tries to kill himself in front of her and she says she loves him. I wanted him to quit while he was ahead because this woman. Also during the trial, almost all the suitors are disqualified, and then undisqualified immediately after. This part was so long-winded, we could lose 100 pages and miss nothing. Then we are told Brunde, a poor woman, had taken refuge in Morva Neroni's cottage with her child, but she is taken from there on charges of witchcraft, while she says the father of her child is not the fiend, as everyone says, but Gangogo, who rejects her. The Cardinal sentences Brunde to be tied to a rock on the hill until she would freeze to death. Estrella then goes to the mountain to free Brunde, but the Cardinal, after telling Brunde he also means for her infant to freeze to death with her, starts banging his sword on a rock and challenging Satan to a duel. So his men leave him there overnight, and Gangogo pushes him over the precipice to his death. Then Otto confesses to Lelita he is Zosimo. The stranger at the inn was the devil, who took pity on him and killed himself, so Zosimo could take over his body. But just then Morva stabs Zosimo's body, wanting to assure him the use of this new one forever, but making the two switch back, as the bleeding hunchback is stalked over the mountains, dying in the hands of his sister, who herself died when she refused to take pity on the devil. The book would be very good if the middle portion and some spots where Ross describes Swiss mountains and rivers in far too much detail were cut out.